Graphing is a skill that can be used to represent real life situations. And this is a perfect example since it's about that time of year and some of us head up to Tahoe. Would it be better for you to rent snowboarding equipment or buy it? And some of you might be thinking, well, it'd be better to buy it because I go a lot. And some of you might be thinking, well, maybe it would be cheaper to rent it because I don't go that often. So at the bottom of your screen, you can see that the lift ticket will cost you 50 bucks a day, whether you're renting or buying. That's just how much it costs. And if you're going to purchase your own boots and boards and binding, it's going to cost you $400. Whereas if you rent it, that would only cost you $25 a day. So what we hope to be able to do in this lesson is to figure out when would it be better to rent and when would it be better to buy. And in order to do that, we're just going to graph two lines. Like you see on the screen here, we've got two lines. And on your page, you should have the definition ready for the word solution to a system of equations. This is a system of equations because it's got more than one equation. And the solution to this system is the point where the lines intersect. That's where the two lines, whatever they are representing, are exactly equal to one another. So as you can see on this graph, there are two lines, and the answer, or the solution, is that point right there, 1, 2. So the solution to this system of equations is the point where they cross or where they intersect, and in this case, the solution would be 1, 2. Let's go ahead and look at another one. Here's two different looking lines, and you can see where they cross. They cross right there. And if you were to name that point, you would name that point 3, -2. So the solution to this system of equations is 3, -2. So system of equations can be a powerful tool that will help us see two different options. So if we take this snowboarding problem and we put two lines, one for the option of renting and one for the option of buying, if we put two lines onto this one graph, it's going to be pretty clear when we should rent and when we should buy. So here's the original question. Lift tickets are $50. To buy everything I would need, it would cost $400. And to rent the equipment, it would cost $25. So we need to write some equations. So to rent, we will pay $50 every day that we go up to the mountains. That's $50 for a lift ticket. And we're going to pay $25 every day that we're renting. So that gives me a total of $75 times X, where Y is the total cost, and it's going to be 75 times how many days I go. So if I go 2 days, 75 times 2, that's $150. If I go more than that, it's going to cost more. But this equation will represent how much I will spend every day that I go and rent my equipment. Now we need to write an equation for buying. Well, if we buy our tickets, or excuse me, if we buy our equipment, I still have to pay $50 every day that I go, so that's 50x. But on top of that, I have to pay an extra $400. How many times am I going to pay that $400 to buy boots, board, binding? I'm only going to pay that once. So my equation then is 50x plus 400. And it's the same thing as before, where y is the cost, total cost. 50 is how much I pay every day, And on top of that, I had to pay $400 to buy my equipment. So now that I've got two equations, I can graph them on the same piece of graph paper and see where they cross. So I've set up my axes. I've got money spent on my vertical axis, and I've got days snowboarding on my horizontal axis. And here's what these two lines look like. This is our renting option, $75 a day. And this is our buying option. It's $50 a day, but I have to pay that $400 once to buy my equipment before I go the first time. Can you see on this graph where these points, or excuse me, the point where these lines cross is right here. And what is that point? That point is at 16, comma, 1200. That's where the plans are equal. So at 16 days of snowboarding, whether I rent or whether I buy, I'm going to be paying $1,200. The plans are exactly equal. There's the solution. The solution tells us how many days renting or snowboarding would cost the same. And we just figured out that that actual point is 16, 1200. So here's my question in purple. If you know that you're going to be snowboarding 12 days, which is the cheaper option? Well, here's 12 days right here. At 12 days, renting is cheaper than buying. At 12 days, renting is cheaper than buying. So I would rent if I know I'm only going to go snowboarding 12 times. What about if I was going for more days? Sorry. What if I was going for more days? What if I was planning on snowboarding for 20 days? At 20 days, buying is cheaper. That dark line is buying. So it's going to depend on how many days you plan on going snowboarding. So on this page, you'll be able to see that this part of the dashed line shows when renting will be less expensive. We can tell because it is below the buying equipment. And on this page, we can see when buying is cheaper, and that's when the buying line drops below the renting line. So it depends on how much time you plan on spending on the mountain. But if we go back all the way to the page where we discovered the solution tells us that after 16 days of snowboarding, both options would cost $1,200. Then you could make your decision of whether it would be better for you to rent or better for you to buy.